My name's Emily Martin, and I'm taking you behind the scenes to talk to equine artists from around the world. This is Artist Unlocked. Alright guys, what's up? Welcome back. This is episode 2 of the Artist Unlock show. I just want to say thank you guys so much for all of your comments, DMs, likes, shares of the show last week with the premiere. I am overwhelmed with the amount of support that this show has gotten so far, and you guys really encourage me to keep going. So for this week, we have Anne Field of Field of Dolls Studio, and many of you may know Anne, or at least know of her name. She is one of the few doll makers in the hobby, and she's very good at what she does. And so I don't know much about this side of the hobby, so I was really curious to sit down with Anne and talk to her about what she does best. Anne has made 1,379 dolls at the time of this show's launch, which is insane. Her hardworking and innovative personality has allowed her to have a mobile workstation where she can work from literally anywhere. She has a super fun personality, and I think you guys are gonna love her, so let's go ahead and jump right in. All right, so for the few people who don't know you already, go ahead and introduce yourself, how long you've been in the hobby, about, your studio name, what you do.
Okay, so that's actually, some of it's tricky and some of it's not. Clearly, I know my name. I'm Anne Field, and I have Field of Dolls Studios, which was not always Field of Dolls Studios, but it has been for at least the last, I think, 11 or 12 years. I've been making dolls for hobby artists for the past, I lost track. This is bad. I meant to look this up. Since 2006, so like 14 years. And, but I've been sewing since I was 5 and making random doll clothes or horse costumes or whatever since then. My mom has been sewing forever. She used to actually make all of her own clothes until we refused to wear any of them and complained a lot, because it's really hard to be the kid who has the clothes made with patterns from the 1970s in the 80s. Yeah. It was rough. And I'm, I know people now know how old I am, but people know anyway, because it's not a secret. I'm not one of those people where I'm like, I can't talk about my age.
So you said that you've been obviously doing this for a while. What got you into the hobby initially? Did you start from a collecting standpoint? What was that journey like?
Okay, so that is actually, and this has been in like a couple of articles randomly here and there over the years, but it was funny because most people came into the hobby through something like just about horses, or maybe they saw a hobby meetup, something, and they're like, what was that? I actually got into it through eBay because I had horses when I was a teenager, like, most of us. I had them. The first horses I had were ones that I stole from my mom when I was 5. She had 2 Breyer horses that were like twice my age. Wait, way more than that. She had them. They were like 20, 30 years old when I was stealing them. So borrowing them. And she'd yell at me, put them back. Don't put them on the bottom shelf where I can reach them, because then they're getting played with. They were so much better than Shira's pink horse. So much better. I totally painted that. It looked bad.
Oh my gosh.
And it did. I painted it. It wasn't real horse color, and it made me mad. So mom's Breyer horses were great, and I collected and, would save babysitting money and buy horses. And then I was a teenager and I was in high school, and I still sort of collected, but not exactly. And there was no hobby. There were horses, and there was Toys R Us within walking distance, which was really bad. And it was fantastic, but it was really bad.
You walk in and you're like,
No, I used to be one of those people when they would have the shopping spree, like lotteries. I'm like, if I won that, I would totally go right in and down the Breyer aisle, and it's all mine, because that was like the dream. So then I just kind of stopped. I had a couple of kids, and they were little, and they needed taking care of, and so I put all the horses away, and they were just packed in boxes for a long time. And then one day, I had still not a ton of time, but I was just like, I miss Breyer horses. And I'm like, I bet I could get some on eBay, because you can get anything on eBay. Oh, yeah. Literally anything on eBay. It's a little scary sometimes.
Yeah.
I've seen ghost in a jar. So, Look it up. It's funny.
There's something for everyone.
There is. So I started looking on eBay and I'm like, wow, there's so many horses and this is amazing. And some of them were really cheap. So I started getting a couple of them, and then I started deciding which breeds or like breed types that I preferred. And for a while I was very, very into Arabian horses for a long, long time. And those are iffy on plastic molds because like some of them are fantastic and some of them are like,
are you sure?
Okay.
Yeah.
But you'd get them anyway because it's like you've got a theme in the collection and that's what's going on. And I actually started out making Arabian costumes and like presentation halters, very costumey, not anything. The word is escaping me. There was no native costume. It wasn't happening.
Okay.
It was very show ring because in a lot of the ads for the horses or horse costumes or other things, because it's like once you start diving into eBay, you're like, there's so much stuff.
Yes.
And it's not just the plastic horses anymore. And so I started looking into it and I would see PSQ and LSQ and I was like, what does that mean? So then you dive into that and you go down that rabbit hole and then you find the hobby because it wasn't super early days of the internet. There was enough internet. I mean, it wasn't like now where it's like now you can go hobby. It's everywhere. Yeah. It's like, it's all right there. There was none of that, but there was enough to like kind of teach me about things. And then I started going further. And then I was like, how have I not known about this whole time? How has it been this like secret? But I never had a subscription back when I was little to Just About Horses, and my friend did, but it's not like I was like borrowing her magazines and reading them or anyway, and I wouldn't read the ads, and so then I think my thought process was I am never going to be close enough to a live show to be able to do something like that, so I can photo show. So I took the pictures and I would send this was before I found like MEPSA, the Model Equine Photo Showers Association. And I mean, theirs is very, very structured and has been around, I knew this recently, 30 something years. I think they just hit that.
Yeah.
Something insane, but it's like, I would find individual ones. So I would find listings. Rio Rondo used to have listings for live and photo shows, and I found some that way. I had photos stolen that way, and that's a lot of work to have just go missing. I held my own photo show series for a bit, and really it was just me spending a bunch of money because I really like prizes, and anybody who's watched any of my live sales knows that I really, really love prizes. I love that. The chance to win something, chance to get something for free. It's great. Yeah. So yeah, I would have actual, like, I would put in orders with the ribbon companies. And if you're not ordering in bulk, that gets really expensive really fast. So I would plan an entire series of shows and try to order everything at once. But then it was like really poor. So, the few dollar show fees that you're getting in, I'm like, I just spent so much money on giving stuff to people. Yeah. So I had to rein it in. And then I got sort of tired of doing the photo shows because people weren't entering as much. And then one day I found, maybe on the Rio Rondo site, I can't remember, somewhere I found in a listing of live shows, a listing for Nessie, which I am not going to remember what that stands for. No, it's not going to come to me, but Ann Harris hosted it, and Kate Cabot may have been a part of that, but I'm not positive. But I know Ann Harris hosted that for years and years and years. And it was at a show hall only 45 minutes from me. I'm like, oh, that's close. Close-ish. I could do that. And I went and I entered Nessie, which I really wish I could remember what the acronym stands for, but I don't. And I went with my old Breyer shelf models to the biggest collector's show in the Northeast. And I did not know anyone, and I know you won't believe it, but I am cripplingly shy.
No, it's okay. I'm the same way.
I walked into a room of people I didn't know with toys.
Yeah.
to the biggest collector show ever. And I didn't know anybody. And the ladies sitting across from me were really friendly, but they were sitting there like shuffling all of their ribbons. And I was sitting there with my toys going, oh, this sucks. And I almost quit showing that day because it was awful. It was almost physically painful to be in a room with that many people that I didn't know with, you know, I mean, yes, we all loved horses, but it's like, it's hard to be new. It's like, we're all sort of like extroverted introverts when we're at a show. It's kind of funny. And then maybe, I think it might've been a month later, I saw somewhere, again, on one of the lists of live shows, there was an ad for NEMHC, which used to actually stands for New England Model Horse Club, though the Model Horse Club has been gone forever, but Nancy Tim kept NEMHC as the name of the show, and that's just all what it always was. And I figured, I was like, okay, I'll try it again, one more time. And I think I'd maybe found some nicer eBay horses or maybe got something new in the box, whatever. And my first class of the day may have been Arabian, maybe, don't remember, but potentially. Yeah. And my horse won 9th place. I said, my life is complete. Doesn't matter what happens the rest of the day. I got a ribbon and it was really exciting and it was thrilling stuff at the time. And I had vaguely met some of the people at the last show. So it's like I talked to a few more people and it got a little less terrifying and a little less weird. But I'm not an OF collector, but that was what I could afford, was OF horses. And to be an OF collector, you either need an eye or money or both.
Yeah.
And like, I look at an OF and people are like, well, does it have any flaws? I'm like, oh no.
Yeah.
I can tell you as a prepper that yes, but as an OF collector, maybe not. It's hard to say. But yeah, so I did that. And then there was another show my friend Corey hosted just one time in September 2007. And I showed performance. I showed 6 classes. Wow. And I was super hooked. And I had started making dolls shortly before that. So I was like still really new at that. I had like tack that I made myself, one Western set that I made from a Brio Rondo kit.
Yes.
And I went down there and I started in performance showing. It was 6 classes. Ann Harris was judging and Marcy Driscoll gave me tips. And I was so blown away by that. I'm like, why? It's like, why are you telling me how to fix my entry? But that's what we do.
Yeah.
But I didn't know that because I was still 3 shows in and I was already planning to host my first live show after I went to the first 2.
Wow.
I am that kind of crazy.
That's awesome though.
So I'm like, there needs to be more. I want to do this. So I actually got on a phone call with Nancy Tim and talked to her for 2 hours to learn how to host a show.
When you first started making dolls, were you making it for yourself and like your own entries, or were you making it because you noticed like there weren't a ton of people doing it?
So that just kind of like happened because like I mentioned, I've been sewing since I was 5. So it's funny when I say things to people in the opposite way. Like if I say I've been sewing for more than 35 years, if they don't know what I look like, they're like, are you just like really old? You know, plus my name's Anne. How many people are named Anne? It's like everybody's middle name. But anyway, so I was making like doll clothes, like Barbie clothes or things for my horses. I would make horse costumes. You know how many horse wedding dresses I made when I was little? So many.
That's amazing.
I'm fascinated with horses and weddings. So there's that. And it happened. And horse weddings happened with my friend when I was like 11. And I know nobody can judge me because I bet they've done it too.
Oh yeah. Oh my gosh. Are you kidding me? I had such a carpet herd with my sister and I, and we would do all kinds of stuff.
Oh yeah. Yeah. The reason my horses had so many dings and scuffs is I would bring them out and they would roll in the dirt, literally.
Yeah.
And then I think about the things that I used to do with those horses. I'm like, boy, am I glad those weren't rare.
Right.
So the way I got started with dolls was just, it kind of just happened. Like Breyer dolls are awful. I hate Breyer dolls. Yeah. Breyer knows I hate their dolls because I've told them. But anyway, so the way I started doll making was I looked at the Breyer doll clothes, and I mean, they're factory produced, so they weren't super well fitted, especially not the early ones. The one I started on was the Brenda Breyer that had the red slinky and the vest.
Yes.
And see, you knew exactly what I meant.
Yes, I do.
And then I took the vest and I just took in the seams. So I kind of tailored it and made it more fitted. And then I was like, she looks way better.
Yeah.
And then this was even before I started showing. This is like, I knew about the hobby and that was that. Then it turned into, I started making patterns and I took apart Breyer doll clothes and I traced, and it's like, pattern making is hard and not hard. It's like, once you have the idea of what a piece should look like, you kind of hold it up to the doll and you go, okay, well, that needs a little trimming. And you just like trial and error and a lot of wasted material that you throw away. But this is how pattern making happens. And then I made a vest pattern from the more fitted vest pattern that I made. And I made a slinky pattern and, pants, which I've heard from people who have tried doll making, but don't really know how to sew. They're like, pants are hard. I'm like, well, kinda, until you know how to do it. And then it's like, oh, pants have like 3 seams, but doll pants too. Real pants. I hate making real people size clothes. You need so much room to cut it out. It's awful. But yeah, so I started making just the patterns. And I remember the first doll that I put on the Model Horse sales page was a Western doll. I made her a silver slinky. She had sort of a cream color, it might have been white, cream colored or white vest. And I made different like black and white diamond cutouts on it. Almost sure of that. And I think she had black chaps. And she took me 4 days. I worked on her here and there and finished her up. I don't think I repainted the face. I might have. I don't remember. I would have to go look at my pictures. I have pictures, just I haven't looked at them in a while. She wasn't the first doll I made. The first doll I made was actually an Arabian Rider. And I think I made 2 of those, 2 or 3. And then there was this first Western doll. And I'm like, well, I don't know what to do with her now. So I saw that people sold stuff on Model Horse sales page. So I put her up there for like $40 or $50 and she sold in about 5 minutes. I'm like, what the hell just happened?
Oh my gosh.
I was like, wait a second, what just happened? And I've mentioned before a couple of times now, poor. So just so instantly, I'm like, maybe this is a thing.
Yeah.
It's tough because when your goal is to raise your own kids, so you stay home and you raise your kids and there's no way to work outside of the home and you don't want to be an envelope stuffer because most of those are a scam. You're like, well, what can I do? I mean, people who have like skill, like crazy mad computer skills, they can work from home.
Sure.
Of course, with Zoom, a lot of people can work from home now. I'm a paraprofessional from home right now. And that is weird.
Yeah.
Super weird. It's hard enough to help the kids when you're in the room with them, but yeah. But anyway, off topic, because this is my thing. So yeah, I put that doll up there at like $40-$50. I probably charged something for shipping. Don't remember what. That was a long time ago. And she sold really quickly. So I was like, okay. So I started on another one. And I think she had like a burgundy slinky and a black vest. And it was like, that's what it was. It was like slinkies and vests, because at the time that was what I could do. Because those were the patterns I had created. So, and I used to like do shortcuts at the beginning. I would use the plastic Breyer boots, and I would use sometimes like the Breyer pants or whatever. And then I would make the chaps, which, you know, it's not super hard. You take doll clothes apart. There you go.
Right. You can see
it's not magical and it's not perfect. And then once you practice and learn, you tweak stuff and it gets better. But I kind of discovered, I'm like, oh, wait, maybe this is something I can try. So once in a while, I would make another doll and I would list it on Model Horse sales page. And that first one taught me, I'm like, all right, that was really fast. Either it was a complete fluke or maybe I can try for a bit more. I mean, and remember, I said it took me 4 days to make the first one. So making, $10 a day for your work and materials, it's like it didn't really hurt me to like up the next one to probably like 75.
Yeah.
And that was it for a bit. It was like 60 to 75. And then, as with most people who make anything in the hobby, people started, especially since there weren't a lot of dolls out there.
Yeah.
People are like, well, will you make this or will you make that? And it's like, I made like one or two here and there. That was a custom order. And then they were basically Western dolls. That was what I could make at the time. And that was that. Reuse pieces from the Breyer dolls as needed. And things evolved from there.
Yeah. What is your favorite and least favorite part of the hobby? Some people have kind of not wanted to say least favorite, but...
Oh no, I've got least favorites. These were the ones I made sure I had to take notes on because I'm like, these are really important. And I bet once I say it, people will be like, oh yeah, I'm totally right there. But I made my notes. So my favorite is the community aspect. The fact that we have so many like-minded people who, it doesn't matter if we have exactly the same interests, but I mean, friends in general, even your bestie, you don't have the exact same interests or the exact same thoughts on things. But yeah, so definitely my favorite part of the hobby is the community. It's like people that just are so generous and giving and they want to help everybody. But actually that's funny because that brings me into my least favorite part of the hobby. And I actually have two. One of them has been with me since I started making dolls, and that is people who try to take advantage of newbies. It's like, just because somebody is new doesn't mean you can take, or young or new, either way. Because I wasn't particularly young when I started not compared to a lot of people. I mean, there are so many people that I'm friends with now in the region, and they're like, other people who are older than them, they're like, oh, I remember when you were, 10. And I'm like, okay. Yeah. So, I mean, I started when I was in my 20s. So I was like young, but relatively not really middle-aged for the hobby. We have the young ones who are under 18, middle-aged is like 20 to 60. Yeah. So yeah, somewhere in there. But I remember when I started making dolls, and I probably shouldn't have taken commissions as early as I did, but I was like, okay, well, people want dolls, they need dolls. And I made some things that I had never made before. And this was way, way back. I had made, maybe 20 or 30 dolls maximum. And this one customer ordered something just really insane. Like these days would be like, no, you can't have it. That's 3 different dolls, and I'm not making you something that's completely convertible like that because it's unrealistic. The clothes aren't going to be fitted properly. But at the time I was like, all right, I'll try that. And I worked it out and I did it and I made the clothes, but she also wanted to provide her own doll bodies. And she took forever to ship them. So I made the clothes on one of the bodies I had because I'm like, a doll is a doll is a doll. At the time it was mostly. Now, not even sort of a thing, but yeah, we have some options, not all of them good. So I made her the clothes and she finally sent the dolls, and they were the old fashioned, like the weird cartoony, squishy head rubber dolls that don't pose well and are smaller than regular Breyer dolls. So none of the clothes fit properly. So I had to sort of like chop and fudge things a little bit. But again, she wanted a doll that could be a Western showmanship doll. Something else. There was a Western side saddle.
It's like all these things.
And something else. There was like another something else that she wanted it to be able to, I think she wanted it to be a driving doll too, something. But it's like all of these different things, which probably, I mean, I had to figure out how to do these things with very little experience. And she wanted a judge doll, and I figured out how to make that, and a saddle seat doll, and I figured that out. And I mean, these are tricky things to make. Suits are actually sort of hard to make, and saddle seat suits are just, I mean, I've made a lot of them, but I kind of hate them. I hate and love them. I love them because they look really classy and they're fun, but there's just so many pieces and they take forever. But yeah, so I made her all of these very complicated, to me, dolls that I had never done before. And I told her I had never done them before. And I think she got charged like maybe $60 a doll for these very complex things that, you know, they should have been more at any time frame. They should have been more. But I was new and I was like unsure of things. And half of it was in trade. So I sent her the dolls and she let them sit in the post office for like 2 weeks before she bothered to pick them up. And then she sent me the rudest email ever with this just big list of how awful the dolls were. And how she wanted to bring them to Nan. And these aren't, live show quality, which way back then I never once claimed my stuff was live show quality. Lots of people used it at live shows. Never once claimed it. I claimed that it's a doll and this is the type of doll, but that's mostly.
And she knew it was your first time doing it. So
which is probably why she did it, because it's like, cheap. Yeah, I mean, there were red flags all over the place. It's like she wanted to provide her own dolls, which even these days, that's not going to save you a ton of money. It's like, feel free if you want, but I keep dolls stocked on purpose. Yeah, so it was just, it turned out really bad. And it was really, really, really another kind of like a soul crushing moment to have somebody just sort of like crap all over your work is just so bad.
Yes, that's happened to me once before. I think like another person said this too in their interview, that like taking commissions too early, like don't make sure you're ready, because it's such a thing that I think people don't think about. I feel like when I started customizing, like, I don't know, maybe 6 years ago, and I feel like I started taking commissions too soon. That's why I had to stop, and I haven't taken commissions for a while, because
Good for you.
It's so much pressure, especially when you're first learning, and to have to do it for somebody else. And then, like you said, like, you're not really sure what you're worth yet, but it takes a certain amount of time. Yeah, it's such a tricky thing.
Artists who have a certain level of skill and have been around long enough and have their work out there, usually to be critiqued publicly and sometimes horribly, they also have enough experience to more so know what they're worth. They know what they can do. They know what their skills are worth. And they know how long it took them to get those skills. So the people who are like, well, if I had the materials, I could do it. The artist can go, no, you can't. So a lot of people are like, oh, big name artists, they're so arrogant. And it's like, no, I mean, some probably, but most of them, at least in the model horse hobby, from what I've seen, are not arrogant. They're knowledgeable and they're experienced and they know that that's worth something.
Yeah.
So yeah, definitely I'm not into people who take advantage of new people or young people either way, because I've seen both, where there's almost like an attitude where it's like okay to sort of like brush off young people. Actually, this leads into the other thing, my other least favorite part of the hobby. And I was really afraid of being too negative in this whole interview here, because I'm like, there's a bunch of things that I love, and then there's a bunch of things that I don't. Yeah. But recently, it's the sense of entitlement. This has so many different factors into it, where an artist sculpts something or paints something, and people just tear it down viciously and publicly because it's not what they want.
Yeah. Or
when they get a horse from Breyer and it's a mass-produced plastic horse and it's not perfection itself. It's like, it's a mass-produced plastic horse. Even a collector's club horse is a mass-produced horse, just on a smaller scale. Or when artists get torn down for the prices on their stuff because someone can't afford it and they want it, and they feel they should be able to get it. So clearly that makes the piece too expensive.
Yeah.
Which I don't agree with that. No, if you can't afford it, you don't have the money.
Right.
But yeah, so I don't like the entitlement. I don't like the expectation that because someone can sculpt or paint or make dolls or make tack, that they have to then offer their stuff for sale or offer commissions. It's like, I read an article once about kind of like the hustle that we all experience. It's like you do something and it's not like a regular 9-to-5 job. And all of a sudden they expect you to sell your stuff or your skill or whatever. And not everybody wants to do that, and they shouldn't have to. So
tell me a little bit about any like really exciting moments that you've had in the hobby. What are your like favorite memories?
One of the best things ever, I have never actually been to Nan because I have well, have had young, I don't have, they're obviously not young anymore, but like my son, anybody who reads my blog knows that my son Travis has severe autism. I got guardianship of him when he turned 18. So basically he is going to be with me all the time, which makes traveling and certain things trickier. So, I mean, Region 10 has, for the most part, been amazing. And everybody's been super welcoming to both my kids when they were little, when they were big. And it's like, if I don't bring them, they're like, where are the kids? And I'm like, hi to you too.
Right.
Yeah. And they're like, oh, we like you too, but you're here. I'm like, okay. But yeah, so one of the best things though was a couple of my friends agreed to show a couple of my horses in performance at NAN. And that was the year, which I think it was 2014, but I might be wrong about that because I have zero clue when that was. I think it was, but it was the year they had the live feed at NAN, and you could like sort of watch the results come in almost in real time. And it was really neat. And I had two horses, I think, that were in for halter, irrelevant because performance is what I care about. And there was like one that I had entered in 4 performance classes. And again, I wasn't there. So it's like my super awesome friends, Marisa and Marcy, they were double teaming it. They were working, one would work on tackle, the other was doing this stuff, and the other would set stuff up. And it was super fantastic. So it was like, I didn't have as much to do with it as I would have liked, but it was really cool to see my horse at NAN and to hear what was going on and to see the video of the live feed when the announcement came in and it cut out. But I saw in the almost real time printed results, because you can just refresh it over and over and see it, that my horse, Caramel Latte, had won Hunt Seat Champion. And I was sitting in my kitchen with my daughter, Electra, and I like screamed and she's like, did you just win something? I'm like, I totally did. And then I was watching the live feed to see it come through, and the feed cut out because it kept going to commercials because that was the only way you got the feed. And I was like, oh no. And then I got on the phone with my friend Marisa, who I was like shaking and like almost crying. I was so excited, and she was shaking, and she was like, did you see on the feed? I screamed so loud. I'm like, no, it cut out. But it was just so fun. And even though I wasn't there, it was almost as connective as like what we have now with all the video chatting. Because like, this is super fun. This is like we're hanging out, just talking hobby stuff, which I haven't gotten to do in a while, which is just so much fun. Yeah. But that was definitely a good hobby memory, you know? So like, I have a NAN champion, never been to NAN, but awesome. I have a NAN champion. But yeah, anytime I come up with, like a performance entry, like a scene or a class or something that I'm just really excited about and I'm really into, and I put just like a ridiculous amount of time and effort into, those are always some of my best hobby memories. Yeah. Like, I had an OF horse that I used to show in all sorts of stuff, but she was mostly retired, other than I would bring her to shows just to show her in other English in therapeutic riding, because I was looking for a superior event horse award for her. And when I got that last card, it was so exciting. Yeah. Because therapeutic riding especially also has been really important to me, because it's like, that was real life stuff I did. I don't have a lot of real life horse experience, but I volunteered at the therapeutic riding school when my son rode there. And all of my reference photos in my therapeutic riding documents are Travis riding or him from shows and things like that. So it's, so that's like an extra special thing. And it's like, I volunteered there for a long time. That is like, that's my real piece of horse stuff, that and like trail riding.
Tell me about your workspace.
Well, blog readers know that I used to do a lot of work in the laundromat. Not all of it, but every Tuesday was laundry day, and I would go and I'd work on something in the laundromat, and I usually put it in a blog post. Yeah. But my actual workspace is, I have no dedicated studio space. So my sewing machines are actually stored in my son's closet. I pull them out and I put them on the kitchen table to sew. And then some work I do at the kitchen table, but it wrecks my back. It doesn't matter how many good cushions I have. It's just like, if I do a long day of work at the kitchen table, I'm probably not doing anything for another day or two. Mm-hmm. So I started working on a flipped over box top on my lap, sitting up on my bed. So I can watch all of my streaming services, and I have all my everything, and I can watch my shows, or if there's a new Mares in Black, I put that on the podcast, and I can just sit there and I work off a tray on my lap is literally how I do it. But it's a very mobile thing where I can bring it anywhere. And I've brought it all sorts of places. Last Monday, I switched my laundry day and messed with people. And I did it on Monday, and I worked in my car because, I mean, we don't sit in public spaces these days. So I don't work in the laundromat, but I didn't want to have to then drive home and then drive back. It's not like it's far, but it's a waste of gas and it's a silly waste of time. So I'd put the stuff in and I'd set a timer on my phone, and I put on Disney songs and I sang in my car and got in the zone and worked in my car. And every once in a while I'm like, the window's open, I hope no one's watching. And I kind of didn't care, but I was like one of those, should I stop? No. Because you get in the zone and you just do it. But it's like, I've brought stuff over and I've hung out with my mom and worked on stuff on the kitchen table. And I would occasionally, last summer, I would go and I'd switch things up and I'd do laundry at my friend Angelique's house. And I brought dolls to work on her sun porch, and I miss that. I miss being able to just like grab my stuff and go visit people.
That's great.
Because I started trying to push my comfort boundaries last year, and I did things that I hadn't done before. Like I drove to Brooklyn to bring my kids to Comic-Con. Comic-Con wasn't even particularly on my radar, but I was making doll heads for a guy who was making these beautiful Batman displays. So, and my daughter Electra, she's like so into, I'm like, she's gonna wet herself if I say I'm bringing her to Comic-Con. I'm doing that. So yeah, I'm like, you want to go to Comic-Con? She yelled so loud, she hurt my ears. The phone was bad. But I did that, and I drove to a horse show that I've wanted to go to on Long Island for years. But I'm like, oh, I don't want to take the ferry. But then I found out that I didn't have to take the ferry. I could just drive around. And I'm like, oh, sweet, I'll do that. It didn't matter that it was longer. The fact that I could do it. But yeah, my studio situation is bizarre.
Do you have like favorite tools that you like to use?
My sewing machine.
Yeah.
Specifically, my Husqvarna sewing machine. When I was without, I'm like, I don't actually love sewing, but I love that machine.
Yeah.
And I'm used to it because I've had it for over a decade.
Right.
And apparently abused it for over a decade. And I tried 5 other sewing machines when that one was in the shop. I used my mom's, which was fantastic. It was actually super easy and super fun to use for doll clothes. And I told her, I'm like, this is amazing for miniature sewing. And I'm like, and I know you said you can't do what I do, but you should try it because your machine is great. Because like the presser foot is smaller than on more modern machines. So it's perfect. Like the inseam on doll pants is hard to get to because it's a weird, but her machine, I was like, damn, that was easy. So it's like, I really love that. I have a doll sized iron, which makes any ironing I have to do so much easier and less likely that I'll burn myself. I still totally burn myself. Not too bad. Nothing serious. No hospitalization. Not even usually run it under cold water. Just go, don't do that again.
Yeah.
And those are pretty great. But it's like, seriously, these are my tools. That's what I use. Teeny tiny paint brushes. But it's like, if I didn't have a paintbrush, I could paint with a pin. I've done it.
Wow.
Oh, I really actually love, and I don't actually know what they're for, but they're really little scissors. And I'm not going to remember the brand. It's like super common. It's like Frisk or Fisk or something like that. And some like really popular brand of sewing scissors. And they're really tiny and they have really, really pointy, very dangerous tips that I have poked myself with repeatedly. But it's just so easy to cut fringe. They're spring loaded and then you can just cut and it's no big deal. And as long as you don't cut too far and they're not huge. So it's like, it's just really great. So it's like, I'm very specific about those scissors. I love my Husqvarna sewing machine, my tiny doll iron, though I could use other things, I just don't.
What would your tips be for people that are looking to get into doll making? Because I think it's something that not a lot of people know about, like how to get into it really.
Okay, well, some of the things we've already talked about. One, don't take any commissions too soon because it's going to sour you on everything.
Yeah.
But if you wanted to get into doll making, Google. Not even kidding. Google is your friend. You can find so much on Google. Start with something maybe bigger. With Barbie, you can go to the store. You can literally go to the store and buy a Barbie doll size pattern with instructions, which you may or may not be able to follow. Start from the basics, I guess. Like, take existing doll clothes, like Breyer doll clothes, take it apart carefully, seam ripper, take it apart, make pattern pieces out of it. See if you can recreate stuff that already exists. And I practice a lot, and then some more. And, either keep or throw away your garbage, because you're going to make a lot of it. And then you're going to get a little better, and you'll actually like some of the stuff you make, not all. And, keep that and be proud of it, and sell it, give it away, show it, whatever you want to do, but make it something that works for you. Don't expect to be amazing right from the start. Because I've been sewing for 36 years, and I've been making 1/9 scale dolls for 14 years. I've made over 1,300 dolls. Beth Weeks is hosting a doll making challenge month in June, where people kind of like Namo Paymo and the customizing one that I don't know the name of, and all of the things like that, where it's challenge yourself to make something outside your comfort zone in a month with all of this community support, which is awesome. So it's like that. I guess that's another tip. Ask for help, but don't expect everybody to hand you everything. Yeah.
What is one thing that you'd like to see more of in the hobby? It could be like an event or whatever.
Let's see. What we were just talking about, patience. I would love to see more patience. People having more patience for things that we're going through in the world now. Not everybody can get to the post office all the time. Not everybody wants to. Mail delivery is really slow. I grew up in the time where 6 to 10 weeks for delivery was a thing. We need to be, that's a long time to wait, and it's hard, but sometimes it happens. More patience with each other, anything you don't understand. Not only in hobby life, mostly in real life, I've had a lot of people who don't understand my son because they see a grown man who has some very childlike tendencies. He's always got a big action figure with him. He makes weird noises. He'll talk to you a little, but you're not having a conversation. So
right.
He would have left this interview an hour ago. He was like, nope, done. But, I've had a lot of people who just have no patience to understand. And I've seen that in the hobby, not necessarily with him sometimes, but mostly not. People in Region 10, for the most part, have been amazing and very welcoming and very understanding. And there's a lot of teachers too. And a lot of the teachers work in special education. So they also are a little more understanding and sympathetic. But I've seen, model horse hobby is full of quirky people. There is no way around that. Yeah. And there are some people that just don't have the patience for that. And I've been guilty of it myself. Sure. Because something that's severe and noticeable, like my son's disability is pretty noticeable if he opens his mouth. Other than that, probably not. But there are people who have different levels of a similar disability or another disability or mobility issues and maybe super anxiety or whatever. And sometimes people get just so impatient with each other. And it's maybe if we could just have a little more patience.
This one's kind of a deep question, but what does the hobby mean to you?
Lots of stuff. What does it mean to me? Oh, I wrote something all sweet. Family. Seriously, family. I have family, there are people all over Region 10 that are basically like family. They're not just hobby friends, and they're not just model horse friends. It's these are my people. All over the country even. And I've got some that are all over the world that are becoming family, but it's definitely all over the country. Some of them because they used to be closer and they moved. Right. Morgan Kilborn, she's my family. She used to be in Connecticut. She's not anymore. So it's sad. But every time I see her, it's yay, I missed you. And, I've got people out in Colorado that are family. And I went through some stuff about a year ago. I had an awful lot of my hobby family that kept me together, because it's like I was literally sitting through days at school trying not to cry in the middle of classes. I was just so upset over the issues that I was dealing with. And these people they kept me together, and they're like, they listen to me complain, all in writing because I'm sitting in the middle of a class. And, if I've got exciting news, it's usually hobby related. And my actual family is usually great, but they don't get it. They don't get it like hobby people. So yeah, I mean, the hobby to me, it means it's family. Literally though, it's my job. This is how I've been able to be not always financially secure, but definitely more financially secure than without the hobby.
Yeah.
I got to stay home and raise my own kids.
It just sounds to me like you really just got to have like the family life at least that you wanted to. And
yeah,
and not only that, and it just, like you said, it gave you a support network to support you through the hard times and then celebrate with you in the good times. And
I mean, I had friends bring stuff to Nan for me, and I have people who last year I had Jackie brought dolls to Briarfest to sell for me, and Fabian sent me like almost a running commentary of what was going on in the room sale, and it was awesome. It was like being there. So it's like we find ways to like be together and like just like support each other in like little stuff and big stuff, and it's really family is what it is. But one of my future goals would be to have an actual dedicated studio space. I would love to be able to start a project and then close the door on it. Not have to pack it up and not have to put it away and not have to set up the sewing machine and, whatever. It just feels like it would be so efficient. Yes. Just be able to, I screwed up that shirt. I can just sit down and make another one, and it doesn't seem like a huge chore. Because to make a doll shirt, like doll shirts that go under a coat, they don't have sleeves because they wouldn't fit. So there are literally 4 seams to make a doll shirt. And to have to take out the sewing machine for 4 little tiny seams, it's just, I'm more likely to put the doll aside and go, I'll do that another day. Right. So it's like being able to just like be more efficient because I could just close the door on the space. That would be just super fantastic. And really, I'd love to actually go to Briarfest, like myself in person. I don't know. I mean, I'm not an OF collector, so I don't necessarily care about special runs or whatever, but I shouldn't tell you how many Briarfest tickets I bought this year for the virtual Briarfest, being a not OF collector. Not even sure what's going on there. Briar's marketing is just on point. They got me. But yeah, it's like, I'd love to go to Briarfest so I could meet people from like just all over. Yeah. Because that's definitely a future goal, and I will totally make it happen. And Travis will probably come with me.
I want to turn this last little bit over to you. Tell people where they can find you and, what to expect from you in the future. If you have any like Briarfest sales stuff going on this year, feel free to just plug it in.
My next live sale is going to be on my Facebook page, which is Field of Dolls Studios, like custom dolls by Ann Field, something like that. But if you Google it, or if you search it on Facebook, you can just put in Field of Dolls Studios and you'll find it. I also have an Instagram, which is Field of Dolls Studio, and a Twitter that I don't really use for anything but makeup because I don't really know how to use Twitter. I haven't figured it out. But basically Instagram, I post like random progress pictures of what I've been doing on there.
Right.
But yeah, mostly stuff is probably going to be on my studio page on Facebook. And I also have a blog that this year I have managed to post every single day. Perfect. But yeah, I have a live sale coming up on July 5th at probably 2 p.m. on my studio Facebook page. And then in August, I have not picked a date yet. I'm doing a miniature sale. Some of it, I know. I bet people are going to be excited about this one because it is not necessarily just hobby miniatures, but most of the stuff that I'm collecting so far can definitely be hobby related miniatures, like the little coffee cups and the little food things. So I'll have like food and stuff that you could use for like the dolls and the performance setups and different stuff like that. And I have some neat miniatures that are showing up, and people have been really into like the little tables And I have some of those and folding chairs, which are sometimes hard to find, but I have stuff like that. And I don't even remember what all I've got coming. And of course, you know, both of the live sales, I'll have prizes because I love doing prizes, giveaways. I do trivia. Being able to interact with people is just so much fun. That is definitely going to be some of my future plans. I think from now on, I'm probably going to have at least 2, 3, maybe 4 live sales a year. And I mean, people can still put in orders. I take commissions. My books have been open since, I don't even remember, since they started. And I've never once closed my books. The most I do is I go, I just made this and that many dolls before Briarfest or Trixie, and I'm going to take a week off. It never happens. But I say I'm going to. And then, yeah, that's it. But then I get back into it. So, yeah. It's like if people wanted to put in custom orders, then absolutely do it. Send me an email, fieldofdolls@gmail.com. Super easy to get me that way. You can send me a private message on Facebook or Instagram. I'm not going to be offended by it. On my studio page on Facebook, you can send me a message there too, whatever. I don't always see those because they don't come up in the notifications the same way, but I try.
Okay.
And yeah, so it's I guess that's basically it. So yeah, get ready for more live sales because I think they're one of the most fun things ever.
Thank you guys so much for watching. Go ahead and leave a comment below letting me know what was your favorite part of the episode. Make sure to share this across all of your social media platforms. I'm trying my hardest to get as much eyes behind this show as possible. If you want to learn more about me and some behind the scenes for the show, go ahead and follow my Instagram. It's Frost Studios Equine Art. And definitely go ahead and make sure you follow Anne on all of her social media platforms. She has her Facebook page, which is going to have her July 5th live sale as well as her August miniature sale. She also has her Instagram and her blog where you can see some more behind the scenes content about her daily adventures. If you have any interest about any custom orders from her, go ahead and shoot her an email or a DM. I will leave all of the information in the description below. And if you have any questions about any of the materials or supplies discussed in the video, I will link as many of those below in the description as possible. If you have any further questions about it though, it's definitely best to go ahead and talk to Anne. Make sure to tune in next week for episode 3 of Artist Unlocked featuring Caroline Sigwald of Horse Heaven Studios. Thank you guys again so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next week. Bye!